Let me ask you about over medication that we've been talking about from different angles. But one difficult question for me, I'll pick one of the difficult topics: depression. So depression is a serious, painful condition that leads to a lot of people suffering in the world. And yet it is likely they were over-prescribing antidepressants. So as a doctor, as a patient, as a healthcare system, as a society, what do we do with that fact that people suffer? There's a lot of people suffering from depression. And there's also people suffering from overprescribing of antidepressants.
Right. So a paper in the New England Journal by Eric Turner showed that the data, if you put all the data together from antidepressants, you find out that antidepressants are not effective for people who are depressed but don't have a major depression. Major depression is a serious problem. People can't function normally. They have a hard time getting out, performing their normal social roles. But what's happened is that the publicity, Prozac Nation was a good example of making the argument that why should people settle for normal happiness when they can have better than normal happiness? And if you're not having normal happiness, you should take a drug. Well, that concept that serotonin metabolism is the root cause of depression is really a destructive one. We have drugs that change serotonin metabolism, but we don't know if that's why antidepressants work on major depression. And they certainly don't work on everybody with major depression. I forget what the number needed to treat is. I think it's around 4. 1 out of 4 people have significant improvement. But the people without major depression don't get better. And the vast majority of these drugs are used for people without major depression. So what's happened is that the feelings of life satisfaction, of happiness and not sadness, have been medicalized. The normal range of feelings have been medicalized. And that's not to say that they shouldn't be attended to, but the evidence shows that attending to them by giving somebody a medicine doesn't help, except that they feel like somebody cares about them and believes that they're suffering. But there are problems in living that give rise to much of this symptomatology of less than major depression. And let's call it what it is and figure out a way to help people. Individual therapy, group therapy, maybe lifestyle modification would work. We got to try that. But let's call it what it is instead of saying, oh, you're in this vast basket of people who are depressed, so we'll give you an antidepressant, even though the evidence shows that people who are suffering from your level of depression don't get better.
And that's a consequence of not focusing on preventative medicine, the lifestyle changes, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yes, but it's really a consequence of the drug companies creating the impression that if you're sad, take a pill.
If you're non-major depression, how do you overcome depression?
Well, you have to talk about what the problem is.
So talk therapy, lifestyle changes.
Well, no, I'm not jumping to that. I'm saying that you ought to, the way you feel must be respected.
Yeah, acknowledge that you're suffering.
Acknowledge that you're suffering and deal with healthcare providers who acknowledge that you're suffering. So let's take that first step. And
big first step also.
Big first step, yeah. Family docs are pretty good at that. That's kind of the arena that caused me to go into family medicine, the subjective experience of the patient. Okay, so you're a person who is not getting the enjoyment out of their life that they feel they ought to be getting. Now let's figure out why. And whether that means some time with a social worker, some time with a psychiatrist, some time with a psychiatric nurse. I'm not sure how you'd best do that most effectively and efficiently, but that's what you need to do. And it may be that there's a marital problem and there's something going on, and one of the spouses can't find satisfaction in the life they have to live within the relationship. Maybe there's a past history of trauma or abuse that somebody is projecting onto their current situation. Maybe there's socioeconomic circumstances where they can't find a job that gives them self-respect and enough money to live with. All, an infinite range of things. But let's make a diagnosis first. The diagnosis isn't that the person feels sadder than they want to feel. The diagnosis is, why does the person feel sadder than they want to feel?